plaintiff, Jerry DePaulis, dated the defendant's mother for a brief time, but they lost touch for years until the defendant's mother passed away. Jerry claims the defendant called and said she was in dire need of some money, so he loaned it to her. But he's suing because he has yet to be repaid. Defendant Marcella Holliday has known Jerry for 30 years, and as she tried to make some positive changes in her life, everything blew up in her face, so she turned to Jerry for some guidance. However, Marcella insists she is still trying to get on her feet.
Start with you.
I've known Marcella since she was about 14 years old as a result of a real good friend of mine married her mother.
Okay.
The marriage didn't last, unfortunately, and a couple of years after they broke up, I went out with her mother for a few months. Didn't amount to too much, but we got to be very good friends.
Did you get permission from your buddy, or you just or inform him?
There was some question about it. There was some question, but he'd moved out of state, so I assumed that made it okay.
Some people don't think that that's necessary. Some folks think that's protocol. I was just trying to see what he thought. Some people don't think it's necessary. So I don't know one way or the other because, you know, no man can follow me. You know?
Oh. Glad you think that. Glad I think that.
Go ahead.
Well, as time went by, Marcella got married and started having kids, and I was pretty impressed with her for raising her sister's kids in addition to her own. It showed her to be upstanding, I think, really.
Good.
And she had a pretty good life. She was living in a nice house in a nice place for quite a long time.
And how often would you all communicate?
Up until about 2006, not very often at all, but in 2006 she called me and let me know that her mother had died. And so I attended the funeral, and that's when we started getting back together again. And
how often would you communicate then, after 06?
Pretty frequently. She invited me over to some of her family get-togethers. I went to her daughter's 18th birthday, and so we talked quite a bit. Okay. We talked more after when she started getting her divorce going with her husband, and it was more intimate conversation than really, you know, her telling me what was going on with her, and I'd tell her what was going on with me. So we got to be good friends.
Good, ma'am. Let me hear from you. Give me some background on you.
Yeah, I've known Jerry about 30 years, and like he said, my mother had committed suicide, and I was pretty broke up by that, and he was good friends, and he knew her well.
Did she suffer from depression?
Yeah, she did.
Was she on antidepressants of any type?
She was on a lot of different things, and she just was spiraling out of control, and eventually...
I always like to visit that subject matter because people are so unaware and uninformed on this subject matter of mental illness and ashamed to discuss it. And with depression, one of the things that occurs is people become medicated. But the tragedy there is that people will feel good for a long time, and then because they feel good, they'll stop taking the medication, not knowing that the medication is what made you feel good. And so when you stop taking what made you feel good, you're gonna feel bad again. You're gonna be depressed again. So just want to create some awareness. We don't know whether your mother left her medication or not, but the fact that she was on a lot, and I'm sure they worked, and from what I'm told, also most medicines, mental illness medicine only works sometimes, and that's why people should go to both counseling and medication, so that counseling reinforces the medication. So that's my lesson today for a very important subject, and sorry that your mother passed, but you see we're able to provide some education and awareness today, and thanks to your mom. You mentioning it and what happened to your mom allowed us to educate millions of people today, all right?
All right.
Good. So, after your mom passed, tell me about your reassociation with him.
I had a lot of questions, and he knew her differently, you know, and we just became pretty good friends at that point. unfortunately, 3 years after that, my father, on Father's Day, took his life. And so I was faced with, like, life-changing. I mean, my life changed, and I had 8 children at home.
Of yours?
3 were mine, 5 I took guardianship. And I decided, I was ready to go to college and get my degree in human services. And also I was ready to leave the man I had spent with for 20 years. He just wasn't, he was mean and aggressive, and I knew I deserved something better. And I was at a point in my life where I had to make a change, and I chose to try to be happy through all of this. And I made that choice. It was very hard, and it just blew up in my face. And so Jerry and I just, he was like, I started calling him uncle. He had some answers, and wisdom. And
so he's been more of a mentor to you and helped you get through things.
Mentor, yes.
As a result of the trauma and the loss and the confusion that you no doubt needed some direction on.
Yeah.
So, and I had a cousin in my life, Addison Hines, who did a lot of that for me. My mom died when she was 49, I was 18, and he was a cousin who helped mentor me and showed me some direction. I was very confused, very angry at God, and we tried to work that out with me, my confusion about God, if you will. How you gonna take my mother at 49, I'm only 18, and other things got me in college, took me there, and I thank him for that all the time. And he reminds me every time, if it wasn't for me, you'd still be in jail or on the street. Don't forget that. All right, I've paid you back in many ways, but I'll let you keep taking credit for everything. Yeah, you took that bar exam and everything, didn't you? So, that's good that we have a mentor in him, as we've all had or need in our lives at times of trouble. What about the $2,000 you're suing her for?
Yes, on December 2nd of 2013, I got a call from Marcella, and she seemed to be in dire need. I was worried about her, and she said she absolutely had to have this money. And at the time I did have it, so I told her that it would have to be very short term, or as soon as she could pay it back, then I would need it back. And so
and that was in 13, and she hasn't given you anything yet?
Not yet.
Okay.
I have here.
And when you say as soon as possible, you weren't talking about dog years. Did you explain that?
Well, I figured it would take her a couple years to get her feet under her and all that, so I didn't mean instantly. Okay.
When did you resume asking, or when did you start asking for the repayment?
It was probably a couple years later when we went camping with her family, and I said, it's time to start paying that back.
In 2015?
So I said maybe $50 a month, and pretty much nothing really came of that.
Since that time?
Yeah.
Okay, ma'am, what do you say to this?
No, there wasn't a time frame, and I wasn't taking advantage, but my whole life was pulled out from under me. I ended up with PTSD and just from all the trauma, and I'm just not there yet. I have troubles getting all my bills paid, and
okay. Well, I'm gonna have to grant him a judgment because if there's not a timeline or a deadline to repay, then it means a reasonable amount of time, and that's usually months. Most judges interpret a reasonable amount of time as months, and it's been years. So I'm going to have to grant him the judgment, and he'll determine collections and how much he wants to be helpful at this point, give you a payment plan, or just however it is that everything works out. But I'll grant him that in the meantime. And good luck to you. Very strong woman. Very proud of your ability to handle these tragedies.
Thank you.
Good luck to you. Have a good day. Justice for the plaintiff.
I hope that since this is over with now, we can get back to being the friends we always have been.
I hope so as well, and I didn't mean for it to go this way or this long. Thank you.
You're welcome.